Satnam Aloha. So today I wanted to talk about the United States of America, in particular the U.S. empire. So did you know that the average age of an empire throughout our history is around 250 years old? So the average lifespan of an empire is 250 years old. And the USA is turning 244 years old this year in 2020. And by the year 2027, they're going to be 250 years old. So 2027 is an important marker in the evolution of our humanity as we enter into the Aquarian Age. I did an over 6-hour webinar on it in detail. So you can find it on my website, shadowastrology.com, and it's 60% off for the quarantine. So check that out if you're interested. And so history is repeating itself. And what we see out there, out in the world, is really what's going on inside each one of us. So ancestral karma, or ancestral memories, they're releasing from the collective unconscious of humanity. And then they get projected out in the world. And that's what we see right now. And so we work it out, or we integrate our shadow out there, right? Especially if we're unconscious. So why? Why is this happening? Well, we can't take this ancestral karma, these ancestral memories into the Aquarian Age with us. We must be light and travel light. So it's coming up to be integrated so that we can make different choices than our ancestors, right? Our ancestors chose fear, and we're going to choose love. This is the opportunity right now that we're in to make different choices. So what we're seeing out in the United States is really the decline of an empire. This is the death of an empire that we're seeing. So let's look at the stages of the life cycle of an empire, the different ages. So the first age is the age of pioneers. And this is really having the courage to leave the known, what's known, risk everything, and move into the new frontier, new uncharted territories. So this is really when people work together and an idealism, an ideology is created, right? A new and better culture, society, to one that has been left behind. And then the second stage is the age of conquest. And this is domination, right? Domination of other tribes, right? Other cultures, taking their resources. And it's really the growth of a powerful military. It's the beginnings of that. And then there's the age of commerce, right? So this is a successful trading of goods and services. And then there's the age of affluence. And so this is when most of the citizenry are prosperous and they're living the good life, right? They're no longer concerned with survival and struggling, and they typically live longer. And so they can pursue other things, such as knowledge, right? And so this begins the age of the intellect. And this is the pursuit of knowledge, which also brings one out of balance, right? Developing the mind over the heart, the mind over the spirit. And this is our present educational system that we find ourselves in, right? It's all about developing the mind, the intellect, right? The logic, and the spirituality disappears. And then the age of decadence, right? And so this is where the citizens behave in ways that are unsustainable to the planet. They behave in ways without any consideration for others. And this is a very selfish, self-centered stage. And they're unaware of the consequences, that their actions have any consequences. This is consumption, right? You can see this with the cheap credit. Convinced that material things will make them happy. So there's an absence of meaning in people's lives in this stage, right? What's the point of all of this, right? People start to ask those questions. So the age of decadence out comes the bloated, wealthy elite, right, in this stage. And so instead of the citizens becoming outraged by this, instead they admire these wealthy elite, right? They celebrate these wealthy elite. Lives of the rich and famous, right? Back in the day. And so also there's distractions for the citizens during this stage, right? Because the empire is collapsing around them. So there's lots of distractions that come out. So this is the overemphasis on sporting events, right? The overemphasis on celebrities, the famous, concerned with things that don't really matter in life. Gossiping, right? In like the old days of the court, right? Who's sleeping in the king's bed tonight? Right? Look what the king just tweeted out on Twitter. He's so rude and crass. These are huge distractions to the real issues that the empire is collapsing. And also there's during this phase too, is a strange immature obsession with sex, right? Pornography and sex perversion and abuse of power, especially with the ones in the higher echelons of society. So we've seen this with the latest on Jeffrey Epstein, right? In this pedophile human trafficking ring that's coming out, and how it's connected to that upper echelon of society, right? The rich and the powerful. So the last age is of decline and collapse of the empire. And this is the age of the USA is fully in now. And we're going to see this escalate more and more, especially in these next 7 years as we approach 2027. So this is when a big proportion of the empire's resources go towards the military. And you can include the police in this category too. The empire slashes public programs, such as health, right? Nurses and doctors didn't have enough equipment to take care of the citizens, and then the police are given more and more military equipment and weapons at the same time. In Rome, there was economic troubles and over-reliance on slave labor. And so with the USA, its slavery hasn't disappeared, it's just more evolved, right? And if you look and research the prison for profit system, that's cheap labor, right? And lots of people not making enough money, not making a living wage. And in Rome, there was an oppressive taxation and inflation that widened the gap between the rich and poor. And we're seeing that more and more. And in Rome, to avoid the tax man, many members of the wealthy classes in Rome, they fled the countryside and they set up independent fiefdoms to cheat the system. So this would be the wealthy elite putting money into offshore tax havens, right, to avoid paying taxes. So, and also Rome, in the end days, struggled to get enough troops and resources to defend its frontiers from local rebellions and outside attacks, and they built a wall, right, just to keep the enemy at bay. And more funds were funneled into the military upkeep of the empire, and then the technological advancement slowed, right? So this is the education, not educating their people. And also Rome's civil infrastructure fell into disrepair. And you can see that with the USA's infrastructure, right? Crumbling bridges and roads and their water systems. So in Rome, there was government corruption and political instability. So this was ineffective and inconsistent leadership. And being the Roman Empire was a dangerous job, right? Because it often meant a death sentence. So civil war thrust the empire into chaos. And the political corruption also extended to the Roman Senate, who failed to stop the excesses of the emperors, right, due to the widespread corruption and incompetence. And basically everybody was greedy and corrupt. And this, as the situation worsened, the citizens of Rome, lost trust in their leadership. So also with Rome, their army started to weaken, So for most of history, Rome's military was a powerhouse, right? So during its downfall, it was unable to recruit enough soldiers from the Roman citizenry because they lost trust, right, in their leadership and the ideal, right, back from the pioneer age. They lost that idealism. So they started hiring mercenaries, foreign mercenaries, to prop up their armies. And so they were fierce warriors, right, these soldiers of fortune, but they had little or no loyalty to the empire. So their power-hungry officers turned against their Roman employers. And also people started to have a lack of meaning, right, in their lives, and they were unable to make a meaningful contribution to society. So I think that we can all agree we're seeing the repeat of history here in our world right now. In the United States, they represent the merchants of the world, But it's also about sharing with the rest of the world. It's being charitable. So you can see that's an upside-down world, right? They're doing the opposite. And they're also the entertainers of the world, to uplift others in our world. And of course, they're doing the opposite, right? It's about manipulation. It's entertainment for a lower frequency purpose. Okay, so what comes after the decline stage? We come full circle. It's the pioneer stage, and this is where we're headed to now. So during this stage, remember, one has to be brave and courageous to go into uncharted territory. So we've done this on the external, right? It's impossible to go anywhere on the planet that hasn't been visited by a human. And of course, the old Piscean age consciousness is like, well, let's go to the moon, let's go to Mars, and it's like, no, the Aquarian age is saying to go inside. The uncharted territory is consciousness, right? So it's our spirituality without the confines of religion and dogma, right? So really right now, it's who has the best idea, right? Whoever has the best idea wins right now. So it's best for you listening is to create something new rather than fighting to keep something alive that's clearly dying. And this is the process of evolution, right? It's natural. It's part of nature, these cycles. And so this is about not mourning the past, right? The past is gone. The empire is gone, right? And something new is being birthed at this time. So in terms of evolution, right, the new consciousness, the new Aquarian age consciousness needs the old Piscean consciousness for a short time in order to survive. And then it will completely absorb it, right? And then it needs to stand on its own 2 feet. So that's the process we're in right now. The other thing I wanted to talk about was Betelgeuse. And I talked about Betelgeuse in my January 2020 predictions webinar. So Betelgeuse is the fixed red star. And Betelgeuse represents the divine masculine. So the exact day that George Floyd was murdered by the police, Mercury was conjunct Betelgeuse. And this was the spark that set off these protests and riots across the United States, right? And now spreading around the world. So police/military brutality towards the most vulnerable among us, right? That's what we're protesting here right now, this oppression. So Mercury is like a scout. It goes first and then communicates what's coming. So on the solar eclipse, right, on June 20th, Betelgeuse is in an exact conjunction with the north node of the moon. This is very karmic. So Betelgeuse can bring natural disasters, earthquakes, things like that. It can bring violence. It rules military. So Betelgeuse, right, is the correct masculine energy. But it's not how we think, right? Well, it should make everybody correct, right? No, it shows you what's not correct, right? So it will show you the shadow of masculine toxicity, right? And that's what we're seeing now, this police brutality. We're living in an upside-down world, right? We're coming right side up for the Aquarian age. So what's the true purpose of the police? It's to serve and protect. They're peace officers, right? And they're completely doing everything. They're attacking the people that they're supposed to be protecting, right? They're not creating peace. They're agitating. They're creating violence. And so people are like, oh, this is so horrible, what's been going on? And it's like, no, it's always been going on. The only difference now is technology. Everybody has a phone, right? Everyone's a journalist now that has a phone. So now it's becoming more and more visible. Remember that these hidden shadows need to come to the surface. So this is what this Beetlejuice energy, right? It's the soap, right? That's lifting the stain of masculinity, the patriarchy. So the time that we're in right now is a great unmasking. I know there's an irony in that, right? Because we are running around wearing masks. It's a great unmasking. And we're seeing people for who they really are, right? So this is a good thing in the long run. These masks are being taken off so that we can see the truth. So don't look away from the truth. Like, look it straight in the face, but with love and compassion. So divine energy is like soap, right? It goes straight, soap goes straight to the stain and then starts releasing it and separating it from the fabric. So divine energy is this soap that's attracted to the stain of humanity, the shadow, our ancestral shadow, and the shadow is lifting. And that's what we see out there, what we're seeing out there right now. But it's really coming from within each one of us. So we have to do things differently than our ancestors. So instead of making our decisions from fear and reaction, we make our decisions from love. So instead of reaction and violence and separation, we choose love, unity, and response. So you may say, well, how can I save the world, right? Or they're not moving fast enough. We're going to destroy one another, right? We'll never become peaceful. Right? There's no hope. I'm so pessimistic. Right? So you can't ever think like this, right? That you can save the world. It's too overwhelming. You need to go to your world. Your world. Who are the 10 most important people in your world that you see frequently? And you take care of them. So you work out your differences with them. So each one of us, if we did this, we could shift the frequency of the planet in a heartbeat, right? So if you want peace out in the world, then you yourself have to come into peace. So you got to ask yourself questions like that. Where am I divided within myself? Where am I not accepting my shadow, my deepest fears, and do this work, right? Shadow work, I can't stress enough how important it is right now in our world. So I want to share a clip with you, and this is the healing medicine that we need right now, and it's really to make amends on behalf of our ancestors. And it's interesting that the shadow of intolerance, right, what we're experiencing right now, racism is intolerance. The shadow of intolerance births the divine gift of forgiveness. And forgiveness is exactly what we need right now. So this clip is from Houston, and it's where the church parishioners split in half by race. Okay, so have a watch and really feel this in your heart.
We're not shaming anybody, guys. We're just humbling ourselves before you.
Yes, Lord.
You brought the thunder and rain today, God. Because Satan takes the L today. Father, in Jesus' name, you get the victory. Father, we ask for forgiveness from our black brothers and sisters for years and years of racism, of systematic racism, of bigotry, of hate. On behalf of the white race and the brown race, we stand in solidarity, God. We take a knee and salute to them. We honor them. God, we love them. You love them. Use us to make a difference. Raise up an army, God. an army from your kingdom that would take action, that would get involved, that would become friends, that would become allies, that would become neighbors, that would welcome them in our circles. Father, I pray this in Jesus' name. And I just ask that y'all would forgive us. Forgive us for our sins. Johnny, would you speak and receive our forgiveness? Because we're sorry.
If you all receive it, when I count to 3, can you say we receive it? Can we do that? 1, 2, 3.
We receive it. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I want to take a quick look at the USA chart. This is the human design chart. So you can imagine that the United States is a person, an individual, right? And how it relates to the rest of the world. Because the prophecy is that the United States will actually lead us into the Aquarian age. But not in the way that we think, right? So let's look at some of the channels. It's called circuitry. So you see this 31-7 here? This is called the channel of the alpha. It's a design of leadership. So this is a leader, right? So, but the crowd has to pick, the world has to pick the United States as a true leader. So the more reluctant a person is in assuming the role of leader, the better leader they are, because they're not motivated by power, right? As they are now in the Piscean age. So with this channel, the United States has the potential to be the truest leader and to understand patterns, right? And are able to present them in ways that everyone can understand. So they're here to lead people into the future, but they have to be chosen by the people. They can't be the bully and just take over, right? And so they're the modern conscious leader, means that they're a servant leader. So they serve the people rather than rule over them. So they represent the people instead of oppressing them. But they have to be in connection and know the needs of the collective. So as soon as they lose touch with the needs of the collective, they can lead others into disaster, right? And then you've got the 4816. You see that channel? This is called the channel of the wavelength. It's the design of talent. So they have a design of talent, but the talent has to be earned through constant repetition and gradual improvement with this channel. So this is a channel is about mastery. It's about finding something in life and practicing it over and over again until you've refined and mastered it. Right? So this kind of creativity needs to be earned by hard work and commitment. It's not going to come with a weekend workshop, right? And as they do this and stay with their process of improvement, then other people will recognize them, right? This talent. But the talent has to have a greater purpose, and that's to improve the world in some way. And so this is to be shared, right, with the collective of humanity. And then you got the 1057 here. This is a channel of perfected form, a design of survival. And so this is about intuition, right? And it's about creating beauty through action. So the behavior has to be guided through intuition, not through the mind. And you're here to create, the United States is here to create something beautiful out of their life. They're here to love the art of creating simply for their own enjoyment. And they can't survive unless they are creating beauty around them. So then the next one, the last one here, is the 3041, and this is really interesting. This is called the channel of recognition and design of focused energy. So this is life's great dreamers who have this channel. And so the only two lessons in life to learn are to not try to make your dreams come true, and don't expect your desires to bring you lasting peace. So true peace is to enjoy the dreams themselves. So this is the American dream that we hear about, right? Just work hard and then you can achieve the American dream. So with this channel, they're here to gain wisdom by exploring all kinds of feelings, and they have a profound ability to stir the feelings of others through dreams and wishes that they share. And so really some of these politicians and the leaders from the past, like JFK, right? Or Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream. It's really tapping into this channel, right? Tapping into the collective. So this has a direct connection from the root, like that bottom shape is the root chakra, and then over to the right is the solar plexus that I talk a lot about, the solar plexus mutation. It's on my website, webinar on that. And this creates an emotional pressure that can be experienced as nervousness. So the 3041 takes years and years, right, to feel. It's all about feeling in order to learn. And incidentally, this also gives you access to past life memory too. Okay. So you can see those two top numbers, right? The one in the sun position on the right, and then the earth is just underneath that. So the 39 and the 38 give you some indication of the personality, right? The essence of the United States. So it's in the shadow of provocation. It's in the gift of dynamic energy and liberation. Those are the gifts. So this one is rooted in violence. Out of the 64 hexagrams or gene keys, the 39 is the one rooted in violence. So the shadow, what does the shadow do? It makes you react, right? So the fear is feeling trapped and losing your freedom. And freedom is so important in the United States, right? So the shadow feels victimized by moods, right? By emotional moods and a primitive urge to act, right? That's the violence. That's the cornered animal that attacks, right? That's the 39 at work. And so fearing emotional moods, and remember the United States is Cancer. They're all about feelings, emotions. So fearing moods and wanting to act prematurely, right? Preemptive strike. They were talking about bombing us, so let's bomb them first, right? That's this shadow at work. So the shadow pattern can also make people eat more than they need because they don't feel nourished. They're not feeling emotionally nourished. And they can provoke anger or fear in others, right? So the belief pattern, because every shadow has a belief pattern, is that they need to react emotionally, that everything is a threat. You need to react emotionally, and they take things personally and lash out to protect. They feel like they got to protect themselves. So in truth, right, because there's a truth here, that the blocks are inside us, right? These emotional blocks are inside us, and they're triggered by emotional violence. You know, and emotional violence can just be a tone of voice, something in the tone of voice of someone else or another person. And so what evolution wants to happen here is for life is provoking you to break free from these emotional blocks that are inside you. So this is a great gift, right, of the United States, is to be able to help others break through their emotional blocks, right? And so the gift of dynamic energy and liberation is to be liberated from this emotional reaction and to express creativity. And the creativity is actually what feeds the soul, not the food, right? And doing when in the gift, right, of liberation, you're doing what you love in life, and this raises the frequency, and provoking the creativity and freedom in others, and also to help, right, to help others move through their emotional blocks of fear. So this is the spiritual warrior. The 3938 is the spiritual warrior. So what's the true, correct position of the warrior? Is they're fighting for the heart. That's what they're really fighting for, not power, right? They're fighting for the heart. They're fighting to protect the ones that can't fight for themselves, right? So then the 38 below there, that's called the evolution position. So this is the greatest spiritual test, right, for the United States right now, or has been since the birth, 1776. It's the shadow of struggle, and it's the gift of perseverance, and the city of honor, right? So this shadow, and in the shadow of struggle, it fears that I'll stop existing if I'm not struggling in life, right? I need a problem. I need a problem. And if there's not a problem, I'm going to create a problem. So the shadow feels victimized by the belief that life is a struggle. Life is always a struggle, right? And then the belief pattern is I need to fight to survive. And so in truth, again, right, you've got to use perseverance. That's the gift. To fight for love, fight for the heart, and to honor other people. And how do you honor someone? You hold them and see them in their highest frequency. Even when they're behaving, they're at their worst. It's like, no, I know who you really are. That's honor. Is you're seeing someone at their highest frequency, no matter what behavior they're showing you. So the shadow, right? When you're in the shadow of struggle, it's expecting a fight and fighting against the universal flow and where the universe is taking you and feeling depleted and exhausted. And when you're in your gift, you're active, physical, and you fight against fear, not other people. Don't fight against your shadow. You fight against the fear that's inside you. And you see obstacles, right, as tests that serve to strengthen your commitment and your surrender to the divine. So those are the two main patterns that I want to talk about. And this is very, very brief, right? And so this is the kind of work that you do in my programs if you're interested in going deeper. I've got the Heal Your Inner Child program, Soul Purpose program, and now the Prosperity program. And they're all rooted in you in a deep study of your chart, releasing ancestral fears, claiming your divine gifts so that you can be liberated in this lifetime and then help to serve others with your innate divine gifts, right? We're here to contribute these gifts to the collective. So check that out, shadowastrology.com. I've got quarantine specials. And then you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, where I post daily. And I've got a newsletter. You can hop over there. So you got a weekly message, and you're alerted to when I drop a video or podcast. Okay? So have a great day wherever you are in the world, and I will be doing a eclipse video soon, probably by tomorrow. So look out for that. Sat Nam Aloha.